Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, I am excited to bring to the table the subject of leadership because it's the reason that I do what I do. And it's what drives me. It's the majority of the clientele who come to me and that I attract. And it seems to be, for many, this far away thing that only some people are. See, I completely believe that being a leader is in all of us, and being a leader is every moment. And sometimes we're leading in a way that we might be proud of, and sometimes not. And all of that can actually be of value. And I'm wondering which you'd prefer to be more often. Now, quick story. One of my best friends came to me a couple of years ago and told me that I had said something that had transformed the direction of her life in a great way. And she'd forgotten to let me know until now. And she reminded me of an evening where we'd caught up a few years before. And she was recently divorced at the time, and she had a couple of kids, and she was always a bit of a wild energy. And we caught up one day at a bar that was quite well known for having a lot of very well-known, good-looking men who were there, who were also known to invite girls from this bar back to their home to have big after parties and God knows what else. And she was in what we call, in the circles that I'm in, the slut city phase. And we all know what this is, right? Man or woman, that time of the journey, maybe it's just out of a breakup, maybe something horrible has happened in life, whatever it is, and it's a state of fight or flight, connected with also terrible programming or trauma from earlier years and also society these days. And it's going out and getting attention in any way that you can to distract from usually dealing with what's happened or dealing with the pain. And I had been out of this energy for a while. I definitely have had my own versions of this, and you'll read more about that in the books that are to come. And at this point, I'd been moving through studying so many things in the opposite. So sexual energy and relationships and communication and hormonal differences in men and women and how it impacts their health, but also how it impacts their attachment or lack thereof in the bedroom, and even quantum physics theories like entanglement, which is super fascinating. And so I was in a completely different zone. And my friend was in this full send mode of Slut City at the time and was talking about how she just wanted one of these guys to take her home, and that's all she wanted. And even her language was very self-deprecating. I do remember that. I don't actually remember what happened, but she relayed it to me and told me that my words to her that night were harsh in the moment, quite forceful, and some might even say unnecessary or rude. But it was what she needed to hear to shock her out of that dopamine and alcohol fueled zone of fight or flight that she was in. And I can't recall this moment. I do vaguely recall the evening, and I guess it's not always exactly what is said, but it can be how it lands. And I do remember vaguely being embarrassed and frustrated, and it was, I'm sure, delivered very abruptly out of that space on my part. I hadn't dealt with my own triggers necessarily in regards to reactivity. And I do recall vaguely future pacing her through what that night might be like if she went down that road again, and how it would be exciting and fun in the moment if they did entertain her. And then maybe she'd have a drug and alcohol fueled night and all sorts of fun things might happen. And then she'd wake up in a strange place, unlikely having any dignity left, have to maybe sneak out or worse, be kicked out whilst in a very tired or vulnerable state. And she would never see those guys again. Or perhaps it wouldn't even get that far. Like perhaps they'd see her as too drunk or too forward to even consider taking her anywhere. And then what happens? You're ejected in the middle of a bar in your peak state, and adrenaline then drives through you and sends you in the direction of anyone who will have you, so you don't lose that high. Or you drink until you can't remember it anymore, therein destroying your physical health, namely your gut lining and bacteria, which destroy your hormone balance and your mental health quality, and everything goes out the window, right? And so whatever it was that I specifically said was enough for it to hit her in the midst of that haze. And in that moment, I was the friend that no one wanted to be. I just probably couldn't help it if I'm recalling it at all. And I don't even remember what I said. I was just simply learning how to live as a better version of myself, not wanting to repeat that type of life ever again. And my words shocked her into taking action to improve her life, to be present with me in that moment and actually enjoy an evening together, which was the point of us going out, to go on and build a beautifully amicable relationship with her ex-partner and co-parent beautifully, to move out of relationships that she moved into that were encouraging those old patterns, and to know that there is always more to be improved, and the reward of that is far greater than ending up on some random person's bedroom or couch just because they apparently are important in that moment. And there's so many stories that I could tell that are similar, whether I was the one saying things or it was me having the things said too. And I'm so glad that she came around and told me. And yet so many of us don't recognize the catalysts in our life, let alone come back to actually recognize them and tell them, and maybe even thank them. I've had a lot of catalysts just like this, especially in forms of men or relationships who maybe chose a type of leadership that wasn't admirable. And yet it was still a catalyst for me becoming a better human and attracting better things into my life that I have always rounded back to tell them, as I know that people sometimes go on and don't change and potentially create a story that they're not making any good difference or bad difference or any difference in the world. And therefore they don't ever choose to change or improve because there's no point of reference as to why they would. And I know everyone is always doing the best they can with the resources that they have at the time, myself included, and perhaps seeing that there is another way to take hardship and turn it into becoming a better person who experiences better outcomes in life is something they're not getting. And therefore coming back and actually telling someone, hey, those times were rough, but you know what? Because of that, I was driven to change, and now life's really great, whether it lands for them or not. And we celebrate birthdays where all you don't have to do is not die for 365 days, but we don't let people who have given us this invitation to another way, even though a lot of the times it might be uncomfortable, we let them walk around without knowing the impact that they've had, without knowing the power that they've had. And this isn't about going and shaming people for negative behavior. It's about sharing, hopefully, that negative things or positive things might have happened and it inspired you to become better and create a better life for yourself. So that's kind of step A before you get into this. And everyone has been a catalyst for a life-changing moment for someone. And if you think that you haven't, you just haven't been told. And as long as we make leadership bigger than us, something only politicians and community leaders or athletes or movie stars can be, rather than realizing that leadership is something that we play out every single day that ripples through the world, we do a disservice to ourselves, but also to our environments that so many people wish were better. I'm going to run through a few fun little theories that I came across along my journey of learning about leadership and learning about the power of what we do and how it impacts the world around us. And it started with something called the 100th monkey effect, which I will say has apparently been debunked many times, and maybe also not, because how do we actually know that any information is real on the internet these days? And the studies that I have read debunking it are usually from people who are stuck in a very specific box, who cannot fathom for some reason, even though it's scientifically proven that things can be connected across time and space. And I'll give you a brief rundown of it because I still love it, whether it's true or not. And in the 1950s, a team of primate experts studied the behavior of a troop of Japanese monkeys inhabiting the tiny island of Kojima, I'm going to say. One of the experiments involved introducing the monkeys to a new food by dropping wheat and sweet potatoes on the beach and then observing how their behavior changed. I actually haven't heard it said in that way before. I thought the sweet potatoes were just there, but that's cool. After a while, one of the monkeys began washing her sweet potatoes in the ocean before consuming them. With time, other monkeys also began to wash their sweet potatoes on the island. And once they had exceeded 100 monkeys or so, monkeys were regularly washing their sweet potatoes. The habit rapidly spread to other monkey colonies in the region on other islands that were hundreds of miles away. And this natural experiment provided evidence for what is now a widely accepted phenomenon, that once a critical number of individuals in a team, community, or society adopt a new behavior or idea, it will spread rapidly to other groups. Now, when this has been debunked, people are like, well, the monkeys couldn't swim, so how do the other people know? And the whole point of it is that everything is energy, and that has been proven by science, and we witness it in our world. When enough people start doing things, we all naturally start to go, oh, whether we're connected or not. And this is what I loved about learning about quantum entanglement. And the quickest way to describe quantum entanglement would be, you know, how a mother knows that her child's not okay, even if they're on other sides of the world, or you think about a friend and then they call you. There's so many ways I could explain entanglement, and we'll touch on those later. And I'm wondering whether you want to go with a let's point out all the holes in the story, or could you look at your life and go, wow, wait, I've recognized this, that when I change, other people start to change, either in a good way or a bad way. And imagine if more and more people started to adopt new behaviors or new ideas that are beneficial, how quickly that could spread. And then we move to something like the ripple effect theory. And the ripple effect can be defined as a gradually spreading influence or series of consequences caused by a single action or event. So think about, you are one person, but maybe you come into contact with 5 people today in some capacity or another. And however you impact them, because you impact everyone, they individually all go and impact another 5 people in the world. And all of those 5 people go and impact another 5 people. Like, we're already starting to get towards 100 and more. And that's just in one day, from one way of showing up in the world. And then you've got cause and effect, one of the 12 fundamental laws of the universe that date back to ancient Egypt, where when we do something, there's always an equal effect. When we make a cause, when we show up in a world a certain way and take actions, they come back around. Some also call this karma, which also dates back to ancient times. And so many people who have learnt about the theories and the science and the proof of one box might debate a lot of these things and cannot fathom how there could be another way. And yet We're floating on a rock in an endless universe that we're aware of. We don't, like, nobody knows why. Nobody knows why. So could you choose to just open the lid of the box that you're in and have a little look out, see how it feels? Or you can stay in the box. So how do you impact? By the things you say, the noises you make, like how you say things, your tone, the way that you touch. Like maybe you're someone who just gives one of those hugs that's just like, oh, I don't even want to be near you. Or maybe you're a big bear hugger and you just pull people right in. Or maybe there is no touch involved and you actually back away from people. Like there's so many things that people have just decided, this is just how I am. This is just who I am. I'm never going to change it. When did you decide that? When did you decide to define yourself to a certain type of human for the rest of your life? The way that we choose to communicate. Do we gossip? Is it avoidant? Is it from frustration? Or is it connected? Is there effort behind our communication? Is there calm? Is there clarity? There's our physical presence. Are we actually showing up for our friends and our family and our communities and our job and ourselves with our health? There's our body language. There's eye contact or lack thereof. There's the actions that we choose to take day to day. And all of this has an impact on the people around us. All of it. And there's, just in those things alone, if you were to look at yourself and challenge yourself on all of those things and how you show up, there's years worth of self-development work and self-discovery work that one could do to become someone who is more and therefore gets more from the world. It doesn't mean you have to completely change how you do things or who you are. However, could you become more flexible with your methods? Could you become more flexible with your behaviors so that you can be a great leader to the people that you are coming into contact with each day and therefore having a ripple effect through the world each day? For example, if you show up to work every day and people are like, there's someone lovely at work who's just like, morning. And you're like, oh, morning. So tired. My partner's pissed me off this morning. Like, ugh, just leave me alone. And you do that every morning. That person who's really excited about their life is eventually just going to kind of give up on you. And then maybe other people do as well. Or maybe you huff a certain way or look at someone with judgment because you haven't dealt with your own judgment of self. And that impacts their day and makes them start doubting themselves. And while it is everyone's responsibility to come into self-love, self-acceptance, safety within self, the way that we show up is an example of what's possible. And so if we're constantly being the dark cloud and the example that the whole world is a mess and it's not even worth maybe even trying, then that's just going to appear more and more and more in our own reality. And I'm wondering if that's a life that you want to be living in. And people think that leadership is no fun and that it comes with all these challenges. And yet I'm wondering if you have those challenges anyway. Could you start to plan to be a better leader? Start to ask yourself some new questions, get around cultures or new groups of leaders, or even just going to places like the gym if you're not normally there, or community events or coaching containers, or watching or listening to podcasts and TED Talks until they become kind of the inner workings of your mind, kind of like what happened to me over the last 7 to 10 years. It's a vibe. Because however you choose to lead, it's still having a ripple effect. So whether you choose to actually become the best version of yourself or not, that is rippling through the world. And that is what you will experience more of. And there's many reasons why the majority of humans choose to wallow in the way that they are, that this is just who I am mindset, the victim mentality. and one of the many reasons is that we rarely entertain the possibility that life could actually be better than anything we imagine possible because we've been disappointed before. So we don't even allow ourselves to go there. The most common thing that happens when people reach out to me is they tell me all of their problems. They could recite those to me without any notes. And then I say, great, well, what do you want your life to be about specifically? And it's so rare that I get more than a one-word answer. Peace, love, calm, drama-free. There's no specifics because no one wants to allow themselves to go there. And yet that is part of the key of actually getting there, is allowing yourself to open the mind up to what is possible. And this helps you to open up to becoming the version of self that receives all of those things. Like if you can think it, you can actually have it in this lifetime. And that's how incredible it can be if you can choose to lead yourself there through the challenges, through the fun. And the prospect of being that kind of a light for ourselves, let alone for others, has become a really unsafe option in our mind just because of how our brains function. My favorite quote of all time, Marianne Williamson said, our greatest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're meant to shine as children do. We are born to make magnificent and glorious experiences and discoveries. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And we are liberated from our own fear. Our presence automatically liberates others. And the good news is you can change your brain. You can reprogram your own mind that has gotten you this far in the experiences that you've been having that maybe aren't satisfactory. And can you start to see how much that does change the world around you? Perhaps things are dark right now, and all you can see is darkness. Could you choose to turn on the light? What if you could consider just for a moment that if you prioritize learning and growing and healing and becoming this totally new and improved version of yourself that benefits you, benefits your family, your community, your health, your bank accounts, happiness, and how often you get to exist in that state? What if you considered making a plan to do that? Doing that alone for yourself inspires hundreds, thousands, millions by ripple effect to do the same. And it's already happening. I'm just wondering if you're choosing to lead as part of it, or are you choosing to lead as part of the opposition? And Drew Dudley, from an incredible TED Talk that changed my life about 7 years ago, said, we've made leadership about changing the world, but there is no world. There's only 8 billion understandings of it. And if you can change one person's understanding of it, one person's understanding of what they're capable of, one person's understanding of how much people care about them, one person's understanding of how powerful an agent for change they can be in this world, you've changed the whole thing. And one of the mantras that I start each day with is actually 3 questions for myself. How can I give? How can I grow? How can I celebrate? And then if we tap on a bonus, how can I also receive? These actions, these questions, when followed by action, activate pretty much all the laws of the universe, which generate what we experience and how we create life and what we attract and all the things. And I'm wondering what kind of leader you will be for yourself before any other. What kind of leader you would like to be remembered as by anyone and everyone who crosses your path. And what are you going to start doing about it?